What is the creepiest thing that has ever actually happened to you? That time in Atlanta. I do not usually talk about this because, honestly, it still does not make any real sense to me. There is no neat explanation, and without something that ties it all together, I have never known how to share it with people I know. So, I just never did. And because I kept it to myself all this time, the memories have gotten a little foggy. But I can still say, without a doubt, it was the creepiest thing that ever happened to me. Back when I was younger, I took a solo trip to Atlanta for an internship. I was barely scraping by, so I used buses and trains to get wherever I needed. You meet all kinds on public transportation, and I had my fair share of uncomfortable moments, mostly from guys acting weird. Still, I always found a way to either get away from them or lose them in a crowd without making too big of a deal about it. On the final day of my trip, I headed to the airport, riding the train like usual. That is when this big guy came up to me. And I mean big, way taller and built heavier than me. He looked like he did not put much thought into his clothes, just thrown on jeans and a t-shirt, nothing fancy. Right away, I could tell he was trying to start something. He was not smiling. He was not hitting on me. He did not ask for my phone number or try to flirt. It was more like he had already decided we were going to spend some time together, and there was nothing I could do about it. He would just speak now and then, like we were already having some kind of slow conversation. He had this quiet, calm way of talking, like he was totally sure I was not going to run off. Usually, I could just pretend to get off at a different stop and wait for another train, but this time I did not have that option. I was on a schedule and needed to catch my flight. So, I stayed on. When the train pulled into the airport stop, I got off. So did he. And he made no effort to act like it was a coincidence. He walked right next to me, like we were going to the same place, even though he never said so. Still no flirting, no asking questions, just staying close. We reached the escalator. I was pulling my rolling suitcase, and he stepped onto the escalator beside me. That is when things got weird. Out of nowhere, he reached over and put his hand on top of mine, right there on the suitcase handle. Not yanking or pulling, just covering my hand with his. I held tight. My mind was racing. What in the world was this? I should have pulled my hand back, shouted at him, something. But I was caught so off guard I just froze. I stayed locked onto that handle and hoped I was strong enough to keep control of it. There were enough people around that I knew I could make a scene if I needed to, but I just stood there, stiff and unsure. Thinking back now, it was stupid not to react. I mean, I could have easily yelled, "Get your damn hand off my suitcase," and drawn attention right away. But I was not raised to act like that. I did not have those instincts. I was taught to stay calm and not make waves. He looked around like he was thinking about his next move, maybe trying to figure out what to do next. That is when I really started to feel scared. What happened after that is fuzzy. There was no struggle, no shouting, nothing dramatic. It was like he suddenly just gave up. He let go, turned, and walked away like he lost interest. I got on my flight and left Atlanta without any more trouble. But still, what the hell was that all about? Why would someone follow me like that with no reason? Why touch my hand like that, without saying a word or trying anything obvious? That moment has stuck with me ever since. It was not the first time someone acted like they knew me when they didn't, but this guy did not seem crazy or even off. He came across as totally normal. And maybe that is what made it so creepy. Graveyard tour gone wild. A while back, I went on one of those nighttime guided tours through a cemetery. There were maybe 6 or 7 of us in the group, and we were all standing in a circle around this one old tomb. The guide was right in the middle of telling us about the guy buried there, said the poor man had taken his own life with a gun, when out of nowhere, the whole sky just exploded in green light. I am not kidding. There was this massive flash overhead, like a burst of color, and then a bunch of smaller flickers followed. We all looked up, completely stunned. No one said anything for a few seconds. Later on, we found out that what we had seen was a meteor breaking apart in the sky. It was wild, like something out of a movie. Once we got our bearings again, the guide took a breath, pulled himself together, and jumped right back into his story like a pro. He told us that, years after the man in the tomb had taken his life, somebody actually broke into the tomb and stole his skull. Yeah, seriously. Someone went into a grave and made off with the guy's head. Creepy stuff. After that, we kept moving deeper into the cemetery, walking past more headstones and old trees. That was when we all nearly jumped out of our skins. There was a loud bang that echoed through the night. We all stopped in our tracks. It sounded like a car backfiring or maybe something falling over. A couple of us let out nervous laughs, brushing it off, and we kept walking. Then it happened again. Actually, 2 more quick pops in a row. This time, one of the folks in our group spoke up and said, "You know, that really sounds like gunfire." Right after that, we heard another one, closer this time. Definitely not a car. That was a gunshot. And then we saw something moving. There was a light coming from between the headstones ahead of us. And I swear to you, we saw a man walking toward us, slowly, holding a shotgun. We all froze on the spot. He was coming from the same direction as that tomb we had just been standing around. For a moment, I thought, alright, this must be some kind of spooky prank, maybe the guide set this up to freak us out. But then I glanced over at our guide. His face was pale. He was backing away, looking just as shocked and scared as the rest of us. That was when it hit me, this was not a joke. This was real. The man kept coming forward, still holding the shotgun, and then he raised a flashlight. The beam of it hit us square in the eyes. Some folks dug behind headstones, trying to stay out of sight. Then the guy yelled at the top of his lungs, "Get out of here. What the hell are y'all doing in this place?" We did not answer. We just stood there, not knowing what to do. A little while later, we got the story. Apparently, the city council had hired this man to take care of a possum problem in the cemetery. He had been given permission to come in at night and shoot them. The problem was, no one had told the tour company that he would be there. So here we were, walking around spooky graves at night, listening to ghost stories, and getting accidentally hunted by some guy with a shotgun. It was probably the most terrifying, ridiculous, and unforgettable tour I have ever been on. The Whistler. When I was a kid, my mom worked nights as a bartender. She raised us on her own, so a lot of the time I was the one looking after my little brother. Most nights were pretty normal, just the 2 of us hanging out, making dinner, watching television. But one night something weird happened that I will never forget. It was pouring rain outside, one of those heavy storms with wind and thunder that rattles the windows. I was in the kitchen fixing something for us to eat when I started hearing this odd whistling sound. At first, I thought it was just the wind howling through the cracks. You know how storms can make houses moan and groan in strange ways. But then it started to feel different. The sound was too steady. It had a rhythm to it, like someone was whistling a tune, not just random wind noise. That was when I started getting uneasy. I asked my little brother if he could hear it too, but he looked at me like I was imagining things. He said he didn't hear anything. The whistling went on for a little while longer, drifting in and out like it was coming from somewhere just outside the apartment. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The storm kept going strong, but the whistling was gone. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was tired or letting the storm get in my head. I did not want to scare my little brother over something that might be nothing. So we finished dinner, watched some television, and eventually it was time to go to bed. I had a bunk bed at the time and slept on the top. As I was climbing up the ladder to get in bed, the television suddenly shut off. I figured maybe the power had flickered from the storm, but then I noticed the hallway light was still on. That was strange. I climbed back down and tried to turn the television on again, but it would not work. I reached around the stand to check the cord, and found that it had been unplugged. Right then, I heard it again. The whistling. But this time, it was not outside. It was not distant. It was right next to my ear. It was close. Like someone was standing right behind me, leaning in, and whistling straight into my ear. I swear I could feel their breath. Cold. Real. I got goosebumps all over and bolted. I ran out of that apartment screaming. We lived in a small building with 3 other units, and I ended up waking the couple that lived right above us. They were young, had a couple of kids, and were super kind. I must have looked terrified, because they came outside right away to see what was going on. I told them everything, and even though I could tell the guy thought I was just some freaked out kid with an overactive imagination, he still offered to check the apartment for us. My brother and I stayed outside while he went in. It felt like forever before he came back out. But when he did not look so calm anymore. His expression had changed. He seemed rattled and asked us point blank if we were trying to mess with him. I told him no, that we weren't playing any kind of prank. I was dead serious. He looked at our faces for a second, and I guess something in our expressions told him we were not lying. That was when he got really quiet. Then he admitted that while he had not found anyone in the apartment, he had the strong feeling someone had been there. He said it just didn't feel right. They ended up inviting us to stay in their place until our mom got home from work. They said they didn't feel right leaving us alone in that apartment after what had just happened, and honestly, I did not want to go back in there anyway. I never heard that whistling again after that night, but let me tell you, strange stuff kept happening in that place. Things that are hard to explain. Little noises. Cold spots. Shadows that moved in the corner of your eye. My brother and I both experienced weird things while we lived there. I am telling you, something was wrong with that apartment. I do not know if this story will scare anyone else the way it scared me, but that night was the most terrified I have ever been in my life. Side note, some folks online sent me a link to a video called The Whistler. It is creepy as hell. After hearing it, I swear it sounds exactly like what I heard that night. Maybe I am just filling in blanks, but the sound in that video gave me chills. It was just too close to what I remember. The mysterious caller. My mom gave me a ring one day, and right away I could tell something was up. "Did you put me down as a job reference?" she asked. "If you ever do that, you've gotta let me know ahead of time." It caught me off guard. I hadn't listed her for anything. Years ago, she joked that if I ever needed someone to vouch for me, since we don't share the same last name, she'd be willing to play along. But I never actually used her like that. Not once. Still, she told me that someone had called her asking questions about me. I figured maybe it was just a mix-up. I brushed it off. Then, just a few days later, my stepmother Linda gave me a call. She said she'd gotten a strange phone call too. The woman had sounded nice, friendly even, and said she was checking up on some references I had supposedly given her. Now, Linda and I don't share a last name either. In fact, other than her marriage certificate tying her to my dad, there's nothing that officially links the two of us. So how the hell did someone get both their names, and connect them to me? That started to really bother me. Linda gave me the number that had called her. I saved it, then dialed it back to see who would answer. It went straight to voicemail. No name. No custom message. Just the generic recording that comes with a new phone. Weird. Then about a week passed, and I got a call on my band's business line, the one we use for booking shows. It is a Google Voice number, and I keep it separate from my personal stuff. A woman's voice came through. "Hi, I found your band online and was wondering if you have any shows coming up where I could come check you out in person?" I looked at the caller ID. It was her. The same number that had called my mom and Linda. That is when I froze. I should have come up with a show date, said we were playing somewhere, and just waited to see if she showed up. But I did not. I panicked. Instead, I asked her straight up, "Why did you call my family?" She paused, stumbled for words. Then she tried to deny it. Said she did not know what I was talking about and made up some excuse to get off the phone. She hung up. I called back. Straight to voicemail. Same generic recording. I never found out who she was, why she was asking about me, or how she even knew who my relatives were. To this day, I still don't know what that was all about. But it freaked me out. The thing that came from the sea. A couple years back, something happened that scared me more than I like to admit. Funny thing is, I completely forgot about it until about a month ago. So did my boyfriend, and he was right there with me when it happened. I had actually posted the story on Reddit once, but with thousands of comments, it got buried. Since you're asking for true creepy stories, here it is. It was the summer of 2012, sometime in July. My boyfriend, let's just call him K, and I went on vacation to this little island off the southern coast of Brittany, in France. It is called Ile de Groix. Not a big place. The only way to get there is by ferry, and only a small number of people live there year-round. It is quiet, peaceful, and honestly, the perfect escape when you want to unplug and get away from it all. Kay had inherited a tiny house on the island, and we were staying there. There is not much to do, so we spent our days and even our nights just wandering around, taking in the scenery. It is a beautiful place, and we liked to go for walks or bike rides, even late at night when the roads were empty. Now, the night this happened, the sky was crystal clear and the moon was shining bright. You could see just about everything thanks to that moonlight. That detail really matters later. So around midnight, Kay and I decided to go for one of our usual nighttime rides. We ended up heading toward a beach near this small family vacation village, some kind of seasonal resort with a few cabins. I cannot remember the name of the beach, but I can picture it clearly. Here is how the area is laid out. The resort sits in a curve along a narrow road. Between the road and the edge of the cliff is a thin strip of sand and grass. From that spot, you can look down and see the beach and ocean. The beach itself is down below, and to get there, you have to go down these steep, narrow stairs that are a few yards from where we were standing. Kay and I had been there for maybe 10 minutes. We were standing on that little grassy strip by the road, looking out at the ocean. It was quiet, no people around, no signs of life. We had walked along the beach earlier and didn't see a single swimmer, party, or bonfire. Nothing. The water around Brittany is freezing, even in the summer, so night swimming is pretty rare. Then, just as we were standing there, something caught our attention. Down on the beach, right in front of us, a figure came out of the water. At first, we thought it was just a person going for a late-night swim. But it was off. The figure was pitch black, totally dark, darker than anything else around it. And that was strange, because with the moon shining like it was, everything else, the sand, the water, had a glow to it. But not this thing. It looked like a shadow shaped like a person, but with no reflection, no features. Just black. Now here is where it gets even weirder. Most people, when they come out of the ocean, you see them swim in, then they stand up in the shallow water, walk out. This thing didn't do that. It never swam to the shore. It just rose up and walked straight out, tall, steady, like it had been walking along the ocean floor the entire time. Kay and I had been staring at the sea the whole time before it appeared, and we never saw anyone out there. So this thing must have been completely submerged for at least 10 minutes, without moving or making a sound. We both went dead silent. We were spooked, but we just kept watching. Once it reached the shore, the figure didn't slow down. It started heading directly toward us, up the beach, in a straight line to the base of the cliff we were standing on. And it wasn't walking. It was sliding. Like gliding fast across the sand, upright, with no leg movement. No footfalls. No trail in the sand. Just a human-shaped black form moving unnaturally fast, straight for us. It had no face. No clothes. No outline of arms or legs moving. Just that same still, upright shape. By the time it got close to the foot of the cliff, we didn't say a word, we just turned and got the hell out of there. That heavy, suffocating fear hit both of us at once, and we knew we didn't want to stick around and find out what it was. Nothing else strange happened during that trip. No more sightings. No signs that anything had followed us. But that moment has stuck with me ever since. And even though my boyfriend is a level-headed guy who does not scare easy, he remembers it exactly the same way I do. He has told me before that he has seen some odd things on that island, but nothing like this. Not even close. The Jonathan Taylor Thomas guy. I like to call this one the Jonathan Taylor Thomas story, because what else do you even call a night like this? So this happened back when I was in college. My boyfriend and I had taken a trip out to Champaign, Illinois to see Big Gigantic play live. The concert was great, loud, packed, and by the end of it, I was sweaty and dying of thirst from not wanting to pay ridiculous venue drink prices. The Whistler. I've been holding on to this story for a long time. I call it the Whistler. It's hard to explain, honestly terrifying, and I swear to you, it's all true. I even have video proof. It started when I was around 8 years old. I was out walking my dog late at night with my mom. We live on the edge of Lansing, Michigan, right by some woods and a swamp. It was about 11 p.m. Quiet. Just a little breeze. Then we heard it, someone whistling at us from down in the swamp. It didn't sound like a bird. There was something human about it. The pattern changed slightly each time, high, then low. No rhythm to it. It gave me chills. I remember looking up at my mom. She looked scared. She grabbed my hand tight and told me we needed to go inside right away. I didn't fully get why at the time, but seeing her so freaked out scared me too. We hurried home, and for a while I didn't think much about it. Fast forward 2 years. Same neighborhood. I was taking the dog out late again. Near the front door, there's a big bush, easy for someone to hide behind. As I was walking back toward the house, I heard it again. That same whistling. The tones, the offbeat rhythm, it all came back in a second. My whole body froze. I got that same sick, cold feeling. And then I bolted for the front door. Over time, the memory faded. I mentioned it to a few people but eventually stopped talking about it. Honestly, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. But then, last summer, it came back. I'm 24 now. I had just moved to South Dakota with my girlfriend, Sarah, for work. On the 4th of July, we went to Pierre to watch the fireworks by the Missouri River. There's a free camping area behind the hospital where you can pitch a tent and get a decent view. We were at the far end of the campgrounds, mostly alone, drinking tallboys and watching the fireworks from the edge of the water. It was a weird night, humid, storm clouds rolling in, air buzzing. The river was quiet. Police had cleared the boats out, and most of the campers had wandered upriver for a better view. Sarah went to grab more beer from the car, and I stayed back alone by the river. That's when I heard it, the soft, steady sound of a paddle slicing through water. I looked out and saw a canoe, maybe 20 meters offshore. Someone was steering, but I couldn't make out much. Just a shadow and maybe a hat. Then it happened. The whistling. That same high-low pattern I hadn't heard in over a decade. Same eerie rhythm. My blood turned to ice. The figure turned the canoe to face me directly and kept whistling. I stood up, panicked, and shouted, "Who are you?" They didn't respond. Just kept whistling. Then they turned the canoe and slowly paddled away. I had my camera out filming fireworks already, videography's kind of my thing, so I quickly turned it toward the canoe. I was too scared to point it right at them, but I aimed the mic that way to try and catch the sound. Sarah came back and found me white as a sheet. I told her what happened. She got nervous too. We didn't sleep much that night. I don't know how to explain it. How did this person find me? After all these years, how did they end up 800 miles away, by the same river I just happened to be at that night? Why the same whistle? The creepiest part? I got it on video. In the clip, you can hear me say, "Are you whistling? Is that you?" I thought maybe Sarah was messing with me, but she swore she wasn't. I told her to stop anyway, just in case, because I was getting really scared. In the final shot, I cranked up the brightness as much as possible. You can make out a figure in the canoe, maybe wearing a red hoodie. That's all I could get. I'm in Uganda now, and uploading took forever. But I finally got it online. If you watch with headphones, you can hear the whistle pretty clearly. A while later, I showed the video to my mom, hoping maybe she'd remember the first time it happened. But she didn't recall any of it. Not the walk. Not the swamp. Nothing. I wish there was a better ending. I wish I could tell you who it was. But I can't. All I know is that it still haunts me. And every time I hear someone whistle when it's dark out, I stop and listen, just in case. Afterward, it was probably around 1 o'clock in the morning when we stopped at a gas station to fill up before heading back. While my boyfriend pumped gas, I headed inside the little convenience store to grab something cold to drink. The place was empty, just me and the guy working the register. I said a polite hey as I walked in and went straight to the wall of coolers in the back. I stood there for a minute, scanning the shelves, thinking about what I wanted. That was when I noticed the cashier had followed me. He was standing a few feet away, just staring. Then, totally serious, he asked, "Do I look like Jonathan Taylor Thomas?" I blinked. "Wait, what?" I said, a little out of it from the concert. "You know, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. People always say I look like him." Now let me pause and explain, this man did not look like Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Not even close. He was probably in his late 20s or early 30s. Pale. Dark hair. Soft, rounded features. Kind of blank-faced. If anything, he looked a bit like a younger version of that Lutz guy from 30 Rock. There was nothing teen heartthrob about him. I did not know how to respond, and I was starting to feel a little uneasy. I guess?" I said, hoping that would end the conversation. But no. He perked up. "Oh yeah? In what way?" That is when I started to get genuinely nervous. The way he looked at me, dead serious, no smile, no humor, it just felt wrong. I grabbed a Sprite without even thinking, just wanting to get out of there now. We walked to the counter and I handed over my drink. While he rang it up, he kept pushing. "In what ways, specifically, do I look like Jonathan Taylor Thomas?" I started fumbling through my bag, pretending to look for my wallet just to buy time. My heart was picking up speed. "I guess, maybe the nose?" I said, just trying to say something to make it end. That seemed to satisfy him. He nodded slowly, like I had finally said the magic words. Right then, I saw my boyfriend walk up to the glass door. He tried to open it. It was locked. Every bit of color drained from my face. I felt sick. The cashier turned and saw my boyfriend standing there. Something shifted. His whole vibe changed. It was like he just realized that whatever he had planned, it was over. He looked at me again, then quietly walked over and unlocked the door. I grabbed my Sprite, walked out without saying a word, and got into the car. My boyfriend looked confused. I sat there, breathing heavy, hands shaking, and then told him the whole story. We both got this chill, and it stuck with us for the rest of the ride home. That guy was off. I still do not know what he was planning, but I'm pretty sure if my boyfriend had not shown up right then, things would have gotten a whole lot worse. And that, my friend, is the Jonathan Taylor Thomas story.